All right, let's dive in. Today, we're heading to the remote village of Bhairavpur to unpack a really chilling local legend. We're going to look at the story piece by piece and try to understand the phenomenon at its core, a presence known only as the Aahat. So let's get started. So picture this, Bhairavpur. It's this old, isolated village, and as soon as the sun starts to set, the streets just go silent. And right in the middle of it all is this crumbling old mansion. A Haveli, the kind with broken windows that whistle in the wind. The locals, they won't go near it. They whisper about strange sounds coming from inside, and that's our first clue that something isn't right. And this is really the core of the mystery in Bhairavpur. See, the haunting there doesn't have a typical name like you might expect. It's more of a feeling, a sound, a presence that all the villagers have come to call the Aahat. So you might be asking, what exactly is an Aahat? Well, the word itself just means a faint sound, like footsteps. But in Bhairapur, it took on a whole new meaning. It became the name for the haunting itself, an entity that's defined not by what you see, but by what you hear and what you feel, right at the edge of your senses. Okay, to really get a grip on this thing, we've got to hear from the people who actually went through it. So let's start at the beginning, with the very first person to come face to face with the Aahat. Meet Reena. She's our first witness. And here's the thing about Reena. She's a visitor, a total skeptic. She doesn't believe in any of this stuff. So naturally, when her friends dared her to go into the creepy abandoned Haveli alone, she just laughed and walked right in, all set to prove them wrong. But once she was inside, things got weird. As she's waving her flashlight around these decaying walls, she sees it. It's another shadow, moving right next to hers, but it's not her shadow. She calls out, thinking maybe someone's there. Nothing. Just the faint sound of footsteps getting closer. She bolts, obviously, but the terrifying part is, it didn't end there. Back in her room that night, it continued, those same faint footsteps, and then she sees this blurry figure behind her in the mirror. And yeah, this thing didn't stay inside the Haveli for long. It started to spread. Next up was Raghu, the village barber. One night he's just walking home, passes by a pond, and gets that classic, chilling feeling that he is definitely not alone. So he calls out, trying to be brave, but whatever's following him just matches his pace. And then, bam, a figure just materializes right in front of him. A white shadow with these glowing green eyes, and it speaks to him. It tells him, your time is up. The next morning, people find Raghu, and he's just broken, completely lost his mind, repeating over and over, the Aahat will take me. So you can see a pretty clear pattern starting to form, right? The Aahat wasn't just hitting random people, it was spreading through the village almost systematically. It starts with Reena, the visitor, then it moves to Raghu, the barber, then a teacher who is a total skeptic hears heavy boots following him. Even the village priest sees chains moving by themselves inside the Haveli. Fear was basically turning into an epidemic. But when the terror got to be too much, something changed. That fear, it started to turn into resolve. A small, pretty unlikely group of villagers decided they just couldn't live like this anymore. They had to go and confront the source of the Aahat, head on. And what a team it was. You've got Reena, our first victim, who's now totally determined to get some answers. Then there's Anirudh, the teacher, who can't deny what he heard anymore. And to top it off, they're joined by a police officer from the city, DCP Arvind, a total man of logic who's been sent to basically debunk the whole thing as local superstition. Quite the crew, right? So this group, they head into the Haveli at midnight. The place is dead silent. They start searching and find this old, rusted iron door behind the main house. They manage to force it open and head down these cold, damp stairs into a basement. And that's where they find it, on the wall, their very first solid clue. And that writing on the wall, oh, that was just the start. It was the thread that would unravel the whole mystery, leading them straight to a dark secret that had been buried for 100 years. This is what they saw, scrawled on the wall in what looked terrifyingly like blood. My curse is the fire. Whoever hears it will meet their end. I mean, talk about a direct warning, a message straight from the entity itself. And as they're standing there reading those words, this misty form starts to appear in the corner of the basement. A voice echoes through the room, and it finally gives a name and a tragic story to the Aahat. It was the ghost of Lolita, the original lady of the house. 100 years ago, her own husband buried her alive right there in that basement, all for greed. Her screams, her footsteps, they never stopped. They just echoed through time, becoming the very thing they called the haunting. So there it is, mystery solved. They finally know who and what the Aahat is. But, that just opened up a whole new can of worms. An even bigger question. Now that they know the truth, can the curse actually be broken? And this is where you really see the hope of the villagers clash with this grim reality. The team, with the rational DCP Arvind leading the charge, decides on a plan. Burn the Haveli to the ground. The logic seems sound, right? Destroy her physical remains, free her spirit, end the curse. But as they're running from the burning mansion, her voice rings out one last time, making this chilling proclamation that her curse is eternal and that even knowing the truth won't save them. And for a few days, it actually seemed like it worked. The village was quiet, Bhairavpur was at peace. But then, the twist. Reena is in her room, studying, and she hears it. That slow, deliberate sound of footsteps, starting from the corner of her room and getting closer. The mystery was solved. The Haveli was ashes, but the Aahat, it was still there. Which leaves us with this final, really unsettling question. What is the Aahat, really? The story gave us an origin, sure, but that ending suggests it's something way more complicated. Is it a spirit that was never really tied to the Haveli? Is it a curse that attaches itself to a sound instead of a place? Or is it something else entirely? A kind of fear that once you've heard it, once it gets into your head, it never, ever truly leaves. That's the real question, isn't it?